Hello, welcome to today's session. So today we are going to be finalizing on the weather app that we did yesterday. So yesterday we were able to add HTML and CSS, and that allowed us to add the structure of our project and also to be able to add the styling of our project. So today we are going to add the functionality of our project. So we are going to use the online IDE. So that is VS Dev. Sorry, VS Code Online. So for those who, oops, VS Code Online. So for those of you who have not joined us in the sessions before, we are mainly going to be focusing on making the project a weather app project, and VS Code usually behaves as an environment where we can be able to run our code and to actually see the result of our code. So it's just like you being in the kitchen and making your meals from the kitchen. You have a good environment where you can be able to do all that is needed in that kitchen and to be able to see the results. So that's the same thing we're doing here. We are using the correct environment to to have a look at our website and to be able to code it and to see what we are actually doing. So we had done some work. Let me just show you. So this is the HTML and this is the CSS. Let me show you how it looks like as the final work. We just open that up. Okay, so that's how it looks like so far. You know, there are areas of improvement in the styling. However, right now we can be able to see this is where we'll see our city and region. This is where we'll see our dates. This is where we'll see our temperature, the description, and the speed. So let us go ahead and now add an opportunity where if I type a region here, for example, if I type Nairobi, how can I make it such that when I click get weather, I actually get the correct weather update? That is what we call interactivity, and that is what we are going to focus on today. And to do that, we are going to write our code in on a JavaScript file. And JavaScript is where we add the code that will have interactivity. So, or we'll add our interactivity to our website. So to do that, we first have to create a JavaScript file. So in this case, we created a JavaScript file known as scripts.js. Here it is. We do not add anything to it yet. That's what we are going to do today. And afterwards, now we are going to be able to connect it with our HTML. So the HTML, which has the structure of the website, is not currently aware that we have a JavaScript file. So to make it aware, we use, okay, we come here just before you close the body tag in your HTML. You write script SRC, which means source. Sorry, I don't know why. Okay, let me try that again. Script. So this is the HTML tag that will give us an opportunity to connect with our JavaScript file. So we are going to write script src, we write script.js. So with that, we have been able to connect or to make our HTML file aware that we have a JavaScript file and to connect it. So let me just go ahead and save this. For some reason, I think I did not click the pop-up for saving. Yes, do save. Okay, now at least if you see this, that circle, it means your work is not saved. So you save it so that in case of anything, you still have your work. So the first thing I'm going to try and do, yesterday we did see how the weather app looks like, how the weather app API gives our data. So in case you missed that, let me just show you how it works. So the weather app API, an API is basically in full stands for application programming interface. It gives us an opportunity to interact with data that has been already organized with other individuals. So for example, let me go to the email they sent me. So this is the email they sent me after I registered for my API. Just confirm you guys can see it. Yes, so after I registered for my API, they did give me some API key, which was active for several hours. So I will create more because we did this yesterday. So I believe it's not yet valid. So I'll create more, a new one today. The other thing is if I want to see how the API normally looks like, let me just open this on a new tab. And if I'll have to register, this is how it looks like. So it's able to give us various data from the current weather forecast, the weather data for any timestamp, the daily data, and just the weather overview, just giving you a short summary. So if you come here to just like current weather, you can just be able to get that. Let us actually click on it. So you can get it in different ways. If you want hourly forecast for days, you want it to be able to predict the the weather for the next 4 days. You can do that. There is for the next 16 days, 30 days, and so forth. So currently we just want the current data. So I'll just click on it, written API doc. So doc just means it is a documentation to guide me on how to use this API. So these are some of the text that we will write so that we can be able to access the API. So for example, if I put an an API call that allows me to see for a particular latitude and longitude, maybe one for a particular region, you have to attach your own API key and you will get such a response where it shows you these are the coordinates, this is the weather, it will be rain, moderate, and so forth. And then after that, so you can even select if you only want to see London, UK, and so forth. And that is what one of the main things we will make use of. So if I open this just to see, so here they have specified, show me the London and UK weather, and this is the API key. So they have used this API. I don't know if it will still be valid. Okay, it's still valid. So I can be able to see how the weather in London currently is. let us see how we can make this possible so that we can be able to see our own data and our own weather. So let me just show you the end result of what we expect. So for example, we expect if I do put like London and I click get weather, I'm able to see the weather automatically. If I do um, Paris or Paris, I'm able to see the weather. So those are different. This is what we expect to get at the end of our class today. So let us go ahead and do that. So the first thing I am going to do is I will have to log in. So I had already created an account yesterday. If you missed how to create an account, just go ahead and watch part one of this content and you will see how to do that. So let me go ahead and log in on my project. So that I can get different APIs, though I can still actually use the API that I have here. So if you want even to showcase, to present your data like this, you see here the 8-day weather forecast. So if you want to also present your data like this, it's very, very possible. All you have to do is to create the structure and the styling to accomplish that. So let us go back to our JavaScript. Rather than me having to get another API key just to make it easy, I'm going to use the API key that I have on my email that I've just shown you right now. I don't keep getting new ones, so this is it, the API key. So you will get your own different once you create an account. So I'll just use that. So the first thing I will say is I'll come to my Visual Studio in my script.js and I'll say const. I can call this I'll first call the API key. So I can say const API key. So here we are just creating a memory location. We are creating a variable. A variable basically is a memory location that allows you to be able to store values. So I am creating a memory location using the const keyword. Const means that it gives us an opportunity to create memory locations that their values cannot be tampered with. You can use const or let. So let gives you an opportunity to where you can be able to tamper with the the values inside the 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 memory location. For example, a memory location is mostly like a container, but not in the memory of your laptop. So for example, I can create, or in the memory space that your project has. So for example, I can have, if in my kitchen, I can have a container which inside of it there is cookies. You know, if I say const cookies is equals to the numbers of cookies in that container, that means I cannot be able to remove or add inside those that container. It just stays as it is. But I don't want that for my cookies. I want to be able to eat when I want or to add when I want. So for that, for such an instance, you use the let. You say let cookies. So when I use const, that means I don't want this value to be tampered with. So I can come here and say let key to be is equals to. So I'll put this inside a string. A string is anything you put inside quotation marks. It can be a single quotation mark or a double quotation mark. Mostly it's used to show if it is a word, a sentence, but also you can make a number a string when you put it inside quotation mark. So I'll come to that value that they sent me on my email and I will just copy. So as you can see that this is your API key. I'll just copy this part for the API key. And then I'll go ahead and paste it. Great. So that is what I have. So I have my API key. I need not to get that URL. A URL means Uniform Resource Locator. So it allows us to be able to locate something on the browser. I'm so sure all of us here have interacted with URLs before. So if I come here, let me go back to that email. Let me just find it. Okay, here it is. So there are various URLs that you can choose. So like here you can see if you wanted to, here we are only seeing data from London and the UK. So, or London, UK. So that is app ID is now the API key, and we were able to see the weather in London, how it looks like. But let me just, because I want to be able to tamper with the data and to show from different regions, I'll copy up to where it is written. Okay, let me just pick it. Let me first click on it. Come here and I'll copy up to where it's written HTTPS weather. So this part where you're seeing written question mark Q and all that, that is used over here. It's used to just, it's called a query. You know, you are asking the internet, I want you specifically to show me for London. So that is what is happening there. So I'll come in and write const URL. I can just give it the name URL. Store it also inside a string like that. So now the next thing, and if you just click on this alone, so it's telling me invalid API key because I have to add an API key to be able to access data from this API. Yeah, they just don't want to make it accessible. So I'll show you how to go ahead and do that now on your code. Okay, so the next thing I am going to do is I'm going to say what is so we are going to add data or a function that allows us to be able to capture the value of our, sorry, I'm trying to see. Okay, great. So we are going to create a variable that is going to be able to see the name that we put in. So we are going to create a function that is going to see the name that we put in here on our website. And if we put in Nairobi, it shows us data for Nairobi. So we need a function that's the whole, it's their specific role to give us that value. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to write function. I'm going to just call this weather. Let me just start with a small letter, weather function, or we can write weather results so that it's for showing the weather results. So anytime I want to get weather for a particular region, I have to know the name of the region I want. So it's important we pass in what we call a parameter, so that anytime I say that I want to make use or to see the weather results, I see the weather results of a particular region. So the next thing I am going to do is I'm going to create that API. So remember this API, we head here. Let me come here. Here we had an API that if I want to see the weather for London, I'll first put in API dot. So of course it starts with the HTTPS API open weather data slash weather slash weather into question mark, all this. So we have to pass those values so that it works as we expect. So I'll come here, and even if I go to my documentation, so the documentation is just basically the notes on how to make use of an API. I think we can go to guide. Yes, it's gone. Yeah, so here it is. Let me see. This is what I wanted. Go to dashboard. And let me come to where it's an API. Oh yeah, here's what I was looking for. So in the API, we'll go to a written API doc. So we want to be able to, so they've told us how to start and how to see. So if you want to make an API call, you have to do this. You have to pass the URL, and then you can pass the latitude and the longitude, and you can exclude some things if you want. So this is an example, exclude hourly, daily, and all that, and you'll get this value. For now, I want to just be able to pass in the city name. Let me go for the one with the city. Don't worry, this API has a lot of data, so they're just trying to show you how you can make use of the API in different scenarios. And this is why using an API is easier, because they have already organized their data and how you can get it. So all you have to do is just to add it on your website, which is what we are doing. So where is the one for the city? Did I lose it? I don't want the one that we have to put in the longitude and the latitude. Where am I at the bottom? I think I missed it. Let me just go back slowly. How to make an API call. So this is an example with the longitude and the latitude. So these are just, it's giving us descriptions of what each part does. So it's really cool for you to make sure that wait, am I in the wrong one? I'll go back to API. Oh yeah, I had clicked the wrong one. We don't want the one written one call, we want the one written current order data. Okay. So we want the one where we can put in the name of the city. Here you have to put in, for this you have to put in the zip code and the country code. That is how it looks like. I just want where we can put in the name. So this, you can see the results in different languages, which is pretty cool. You can go ahead and try this. I have gone to down. Where do I keep missing what I want? Okay. So current, this you put in the latitude and the longitude. We want one where we just put in the city, the name. So this is just the minimum and the maximum. So this is where you add, yeah, here it is actually. So I think I just kept scrolling over it. So here they have said, if you want to get the values of just the city name, you have to pass this queue, city name and API key. If you want to get the city, somebody to put in the city name and the country code, you can do that. If you want the city name, the state code and the country code, you can do that. So I think right now we just want for the city name, so I can copy this and I can come to my web to here to my JavaScript, and I can say const API call, let me call it API call to be is equals to, I'll use backticks. Backticks is next to number 1 in your keyboard. And then now I'll go ahead and I can pass that. So several things I want to point out. We already have up to here, we already have something called the URL that defines this part. So we don't need to repeat it. Instead, we can delete this part, put a $sign like that and curly brackets like that and pass it in. So this is called URL. This is known as interpolation, okay, where you are accessing the value inside another variable you had already defined. So we have question mark and then we have city name, okay. So here we have already defined that for every function that you're going to create, I mean, to get a weather result, you have to pass in the function. So to be able to see that, I'll just come here rather than using that city name that they have provided there. Because I've written mine slightly different, I'll just write city name. So this is important because we want how our website is going to collect data to be how that is showcased. And then we already have the API key. We saved it as API key. So I'll come here and I can put a $sign and write API key like that. So with that now, we can be able to look at our data in different regions. So you can add more options like from the data where you can be able to add, maybe if you want to, you see, London API key, just like they gave us in the email. So if you want to see things like units where you specify if you want to be given the results in degrees Celsius and something like that, those are things that we can go on and add, but we will do that later on. Let me just send you this link so that you don't have a hard time finding it. Okay, so there it is. So the next thing we are going to do is to now continue with this. So I'm going to say const. So I'm going to, I'm going to use a function or a JavaScript method known as fetch. So fetch, it will fetch this data, this response that we get from this API call. So I'll come and say fetch API call. Yeah. And when you fetch it, what do I want you to do? I'll say fetch. Then, so you normally say dot then, check if you have a response from that API call. So, and then we put an arrow function here. And then we say, if you do have a response, so say if you have a response and it is not okay. So that means if there is no response, what do I want you to do? So you say if response is not okay. So this exclamation marks means not. So like if response is not okay, what do I want you to do? I want you to go ahead and show an error. So you can be like throw. So throw just, not like it will throw, it's just a programming term to show display a particular error. You can even put console.log. So, but here you can be like error, city not found. Please try again. Okay, so bit can be like, okay, please add another new city or something. So we'll be like, if the response is not okay, that's what we want. But what if it is okay? You just come ahead and you say return the response in JSON format. So JSON is a format that you want your data to be presented. So I had talked about this earlier, and even it is really used here a lot. You can specify different types of formats. You can even say in HTML, in XML. So this is an example of a JSON format where we have these curly brackets. So it's usually easier to work with. It's not that the others are hard, it's just that this is usually very, it's used in a lot of the applications. So we have that, and then we come here, we say, dot then, what do I want you to do? I want you now to pick that data that you have received and show that data inside the weather. So we'll create a new function known as show data that will be able to display the data in these different areas we specified there. So we can call this weather. We can call this, let's say, show. How do I call it? Weather results. You can call this weather details. It's gonna be a better name. Weather details. So in that weather details function, we are going to write it. We are going to pass in that data so that it can now be displayed for the users to see. Okay. So after that, let us go ahead and say, but what happens if I actually find an error? What happens if our code finds an error and it is not because the user has put in the wrong name? You say dot catch that error. So we catch that error and you say catch that error and say alert the user. You can alert the user, you can console, you can choose a particular, we can add another. Okay, just give it a minute. Yeah, so we can choose a user or we can choose a HTML, we can add a HTML maybe paragraph that shows that error message. So however we choose, so it can be alert error dot message. Yeah, and then we are now going to say console dot log error, and we can be like we experienced an error while trying to get the data. So you can now go ahead and specify. You can show the individual the error. Sometimes the error might not be based on the user, but it's something that the developers of the code, as the developers of the code, we can correct. So that is why it's important to see any message of any error. So maybe sometimes it can be internet connection, it can be we're just having a hard time getting data from the API, which commonly happens. So here we created a function called weather details. I'd want us to go ahead and see what that function will do. to display the details of our weather in these different locations we have provided. So we are going to come here. Let me come back here. Let me see. I'm thinking we do not need these titles now that I'm looking at it. So we have, let me refresh. Yeah, I think we can just have it like that, because rather than having to say date and all that, let me just remove all this. So those are just like, they were headings, so I'm just leaving a place where now that data will be displayed. So if I look at it, we just have it, let me refresh, we just show it like that. Let us see how it will look like after the data. If we need to add more, we will definitely for sure add more. So I'll come here and I'll give this to access stuff from to the JavaScript side. It's good you give those element ID names so that it is very, very specific. So I can come here and I can say ID. I can give them the same names as what we had here. There is no problem. I can come again. I think I can pick from here to here just to save up on time. Here, write ID. Do the same for temperature. ID. Do the same for weather condition description. ID. Okay, so we have that up to that point. So let us go ahead and create a function. So we can be like function is equals to weather details, like that. So here we are going to also the weather details will have a data. You see it whenever you write weather details data, that means also this function expects a variable. So it expects some values. So this, it definitely expects values because it expects to pass the values from this API call into this function so that this function now can display it in the different parts of the website. So we're going to write that, and then we're going to say document. Whenever you say the word document, that means we are accessing something from the HTML side. So we're going to say, can come and say document dot get element. We can now use element by ID. Most of them are IDs. So maybe here we can just put in a HTML is equals to something. So I just want to copy this several times because we have several points of input. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me copy it 5 times so that I just have an easier time. So there they are. So we now need to have our IDs. So the first one is the city name. So because I've already said get element by ID, I'll just put this in quotation marks and write the ID name. City name. Okay. And then next I'll come here and I'll show you what to do next, but I want to pick all of them. The next one is date. So I can pass on date. The next one has an ID of temperature. So I'll go ahead and pass in temperature. The next one is weather description. I'll go ahead and pass that in here, weather description. weather description. The next one is wind speed. I'll come here and pass wind speed. Yep, like that. So now we have all the, no, these are written on temperature. So we have all the values from the HTML side. So let us go ahead and display what we want. Before I do that, you need to realize these weather details, how they will show up. How they will show up. Did they show us here by any chance? Let me confirm. I think I have gone to the one where we're putting in the city. Okay, here. So this is the values we have put here. So when we get a response, what we expect is to see such. We expect to see the coordinates, the weather, the base, the main, visibility, wind, clouds, all that. So you just pick whatever you feel like you want. So here you can see the name shows London. So so if I want to see the city name, I will say I will come here and write data. So I'll write data dot name. This will give me an opportunity to get the values inside this variable we called data, but we get only the name so that it can be the city name. So we want now the date. So if you want the date, you come here, you find the one that has the date. It's the one with the date. Oh, the date, we can use the JavaScript date function to just show today's date and time. In JavaScript, there's something they call the date function, which looks like this. Oh, I should have written, oh, thank God it has sense. I want it in JavaScript. So this allows us to be able, because I realized they can't put the date in the database because the date consistently changes per day. So you can just come here if you want to get a date. We use, like, for example, new date. Here it's just the format you want it to string. It shows you Saturday, September 13th, this time end date, and so forth and so forth. Let me see. You can use different tiers. You can say get full year. You can say get month, get date, get hours, get minutes, and all that. So there's something I want to talk about. I want to see if they have put it. Yeah, so if you say you want a particular date, you can set the date yourself, or if you just want today's date, yeah, I don't know if it's this one. Yeah, so for example, this new date returns number of millisecond elapsed since epoch, which is defined at midnight in the beginning of 1975. And this, let me see. I thought it would just show me the date now. So date now is mostly used to show you the current date. I don't know why it's not showing that, but let me show, not date now, but the date method. So I'll come here and I will say new. You have to use the keyword new. You say new date, in like that. Yeah. And then you put dot to local or to local string. This will just allow us to be able to view the date, and you will see that the current date and time the user is clicking on the code. The next one is the degree, the temperature. So if you want to get the temperature, let us see where it is here. Is it this one? Yeah, main. This is wind. We don't want wind. Oh, here it is. Temperature is main temperature. You get your value. So to get, because temperature is inside main, I'll come ahead and I will write data. Oops, sorry. You write data dot main dot, it was, you have to get exactly the name they have put in front of it. So they've written temp. So that is exactly how I'll go ahead and write it. Temp. So if I want now to add the dot degrees, so you can say degrees. Oh, degrees Celsius in JavaScript. See how to add degrees Celsius in JavaScript. So I just want to show you how I knew how to add that. And you can just come here to Stack Overflow and use that. So I want to include degrees Celsius. So we use this to add the degrees Celsius. So let me just make sure I post it in the comment section so you can see it clearly. Like they're saying, don't forget the semicolon because it will give you an error. So I'll come here and I'll put, I can just write I'll put this in backticks and use interpolation once more so that I can be able to add that degrees Celsius. And close this. Yes, and then I'll put this and I will close my backtick so that now it's able to add that degrees Celsius after. So we have now the weather description. So the weather description, we should find it here, weather description. It's inside weather. You'll see something written description. So I'll come here and write weather. So I'll first start with data dot weather dot description. Yeah. And then the next one is speed. So where do we have the speed? Here it is. So we can write wind dot speed. Wind. So we have to always start with data. Say wind dot speed. The only one that we did not put the data first is this one for date, because there is nowhere where date has been recorded here because it is changing every day. So the only thing I want to confirm is the units of the wind speed. So to confirm that, I don't know if they should have specified somewhere. Here. So they've said the wind speed is normally in I think this is just per second. Yeah, so we can come here and using interpolation again, we put our backticks. Remember to find that backtick it's before the number one key on your keyboard. It's like that. and you put now meters per second, and then you close it with the backticks. Okay, so we have now our data having well represented there. So the data does have icons to show the different icons for the different seasons or the different types of weather. Let me see. But I feel like we can stay without, but here it is. You see here, icon, weather icon. Let us just add. Do we need to add? Let me look at our code. I think we can leave it because we already have our own icon. So the icon is to just show the different weather seasons. I don't think we need to do that. So the next thing now we have is to make us to be able to see that data accordingly. So the next thing also we can add before we see the data now on our JavaScript, we can say the code that we write so that whenever we load our website, it actually shows valid data, not that dummy data that we had put in yesterday. So we can come here and say documents dot add event listener. So I've always said an event listener is a JavaScript method that listens in to hear, or function that listens in to hear if there you click on something or you do anything, it does that. So we say here DOM content loaded. So this is for anytime your website loads, what do you want to happen, right? Function, your right function is going to be, you can write now this weather results. So we say we want to show the weather results. Weather results. No, not weather results, weather details, because that's what displays the weather in each part. So weather details, but we are going to pass the the value for Nairobi so that it shows us the Nairobi value anytime we load it. Just a minute. No, I think we'll say weather results to fetch the weather results. Sorry, because that's what has the API data. So weather results, and you pass in Nairobi. Yeah, so that it's able to show you anytime we load in that particular weather result. So, but we want also whenever somebody clicks on this button, something to happen. But let me see if I load so it shows me the weather for Nairobi. So you can see Nairobi is here. This is the date today. This is the degrees Celsius. So it does not have any value. So maybe we need to say if the details are undefined, maybe you can put it can hide rather than showing undefined. And then we will now want, whenever we click here, we put in, maybe if I now write Kisumu or I write Kericho, we want something to, and I click get weather, we want it to actually run also on that particular button. So we can come here. Let us see if we have that button. Here is it, get weather. So I'll give it an ID, and I'll give it the ID of, we can write city, input button. So if I copy all of this and I come here, so I can say So I'll first try and capture it. So I can be, I can say documents dot add event listener. So this event listener will be whenever somebody clicks, what do you want to happen? So it's very similar to what we have done here. So we're just going to write function. We want a particular function to run. And this particular function will be for that particular button. So it can be like documents dot get element by ID. Does it has auto completed its own stuff? Let me say documents dot get elements by ID, and you actually pass in that element ID. So we wrote city input button, yeah, and then we say dot value. We can store this, can say let, this one can't be a const because you want it to update on every value. So it can be like let city value I shouldn't put a dash in a variable name. Put this in capital. So let city value to be that. And then what do you want to happen once you capture the value? I want there to be, to pass in the function weather. So it's not in capital. Weather results. And then pass in. Now instead, you'll pass in the city value. So now what this will do is now inside, anytime somebody clicks, it will capture that value and then it will pass that value into the city results. The reason why we are using the city results is it has the API, it is able to tell you if something is not okay, and so forth and so forth. So let us see how that is looking. See if it is working as expected. So I'll put Kisumu. Oops. Okay, let me write that again. Kisumu. Oh wait, did I put in the wrong get weather? City input, because it is loading immediately. City not found before I finish typing. Or because we have put click, it should be submit. Yeah. Also let us put it's listening to an event, and we say event dot prevent default so that it doesn't refresh immediately after. So let us now try it. We have looked at that event prevent default in one of our other videos. So city not found Kisumu. Let me try another. New York. Okay, it seems there is an error. Let me look at how it is processing the data. They need to work on this website being seen on smaller screens. As you can see, if somebody is on an iPhone, they do not get a good experience. especially here and here. So we'll look into that. So let me see in the console. Okay, let me console.log this city value. Console.log to see if it's actually giving the correct value. Let me just refresh so that it picks up that code I have just written. So you can see it's showing an empty string. So that's why we keep getting the wrong value. Let me remove the word value here and I put it here. I put dot value here. Let's see if it will pick it up now. I just want to see if it will pick up in the console. Okay, so still no. Maybe it's because I've used. Let me try and change this to input type, but I don't think so. I don't think that's what's causing the error. Oh, sorry. The input is not here. The input is being captured here in the input.text. So this should be ID. We can call this city input. How would I call it now? Because you already have here city input. So I can call this city input text. So now, because that's where the user are putting in their input, so here it will be city input text because the button does not have any value. Text, and then now I think we'll see now the value. Let me refresh it. Okay, so let us type something. I already have Nairobi. Let me type Kisumu. So I just want to see if first it's capturing. So great. Now it is capturing the value. You can see it's showing us we're in Kisumu scripts.js line 40. It's line 40 here. So now I can come here and I say dot value. It will work as expected. I can remove now this console. This was just helping us to see where the error is. If I refresh, let me close this. I type Kisumu. Now we are able to get the value. So it seems like here under undefined, I don't know why it's not capturing that. Let me see if it will do that for New York. Okay, so it seems there is an error in how I have tried to display that description. Don't know if I have made a mistake. Let me go and confirm. Oh, it is data.weather.description. How did I put data.weather.description? I did that. Rate.mail. Still undefined. Did I write weather description properly? copy. There, it has shown and disappeared. That means there's something was wrong there. H2, H2. What have I written wrongly? Let me actually remove all this dummy data because we have already specified the default value our website should show us is Nairobi. So I can remove this data that was here before. Okay, so the only thing I'm wondering is this here undefined. I have no idea why this is behaving as it is. Because even if I put main, let me see if there is an error in the console. Let me try and console this. Maybe turn it to description. Then I try and console it. Console. Oh, I need to give it then. Let me write it here. Console.log. All this. See if I'll spot the error. Line 8. Into undefined again. Why? Okay. Okay, let me do this. Let me make this website to be a little bit responsive. What I mean by responsive is being able to load properly on different web screens, and then now after that we can look at why it's behaving as it is. So the first thing that stands out is that there is this here in the weather details that does not fit the main weather card. So the weather card, you can even see the values here, has a 30% width. And if you come to the weather details, what is the width? It's 500 px. So we can come here to our style.css. Now we know it, the problem is this, the first problem. We can say that to be 80%. You see if it will be 80% of that 30% that we had. So you see now it's sort of like fitting. 80 is is too little. Maybe I can make it to be 90. So the other thing is, let us see now how it will look like on an iPhone. But you see, on an iPhone now, this whole weather card becomes extremely small. So we want it to be bigger on bigger screens. So that is where you can come ahead and introduce what we call media queries. So media queries allow you to be able to edit the different screen sizes on different devices. So you can write media queries. So this allows you to see, as you can see, you add a breakpoint. You say if you get to this width, display this differently. For the screen width, so you can come here. I think there's usually an example that I have. Slowly. So this is for mobile phones. So they always advise us to start with the mobile phone first, so that it just works as it expects, and then you just now say for the minimum width, that means from 768 onwards or 769 onwards. So this is how you can go about it. Oh, here it is. So these are the different screen sizes that they have. You can just copy this. Let me put a link. Okay, let me first paste it. And then, so we normally finalize with media queries. Sometimes you can start with it or you can finalize with it. So however you feel to go about it. So that is the link, and you'll find it there. So you can now come ahead in here in the different devices. You can see for large phones, for tablets, for large desktops, because nowadays we have like large desktops, and for large laptops and all that. So you can say maybe whatever I have, I want it to be for large laptops, or we can just style it as well, just to show you, to have an idea. So now we'll come to our, where is it? Here it is. So we remember this was initially, it was, we had given it a particular width, but now we just want to edit this weather card. So you can come here, copy it, and then you put it down to the phones. Then you can be like, okay, the width I want it to be 70%. For small phone, this is extra small device. So this is like for laptops and all that. What do you want it to be? If you still want it to be 70%, there is nothing wrong. You can add it, or you can say, is there anything else we want to change? But let me refresh, you see. So this is usually the width, and this is usually the height. So this is 375. Do we have 375 going down? If we refresh, okay. What if we increase this to 80%? It's not picking it up. Is it on the weather card? It's still having the 30%. city input. Maybe we can change that to 80% as well for the city input. Yeah. Okay. So let me refresh. Yeah, so that it looks like that. But let us now increase the width a little bit for the different devices, I mean the different sizes. So we can come here because we only want them to change the one for the weather card, the rest will adjust accordingly. So it shows if you change this for the weather card, the rest will adapt accordingly. So I'll just come here and control X that. That's the only thing we need to change. So even when I come here, rather than me specifying like all these, I can just remove all these and have this and say for phones going 600px and downwards, let it be 80%. It has increased, I think so, but not too much, or we make it 90%. Is there a padding? Maybe also if there is a padding, we kind of need to remove it. Yeah, that's what we are editing. Let me go to the body tag. Did I define a width? Let me just define a width of 100 VW so that it occupies the whole screen. That does not still make a difference, so you can remove it, it's not necessary. Is there something I did? Okay, let me try and see if I change for bigger screen, it will edit. So I'm just trying to change the dimensions for some reason. And I'm sure. So for large devices, I'm just decreasing it so that it is not too big. It's not like stretching itself out. Let me see that now. Okay, so it has picked it up for my large device. So let me see if it will take the change also for smaller. So we normally, oh, it has finally. I was wondering what I'm doing wrong. So it's just now showcasing for smaller devices. You can see it's occupying a bigger screen. So maybe we can put this text at the center and also kind of decrease this a little bit so that it kind of even matches the width of the smaller. Not so bad. So we can come here. Let me just figure out which value that is. Weather details. That is the width, and then weather is input, it's 80%. Maybe now for weather details, we can also put 80%. Then let me align the text to the center. Oh, I had already told it to be at the center. Why didn't it be? Let me look at my HTML. Any H2. Where are the H2s? Did I style them separately? Yeah, okay, here you can say text align center. You can refresh. It has not picked it up. Let me see why. Oh, so it's not even an alignment issue from here. It's an alignment issue of the div. So you can come in and we say text. Not text, we can say items center. Align items center. So if I refresh that, it has refused. Try justify content, because actually align center is for vertical, not for horizontal. Yeah, it was actually justify. So for this undefined, because it has refused, I think we need to reduce this one for the input. It's not really looking good. It's too big for bigger screens. So where is it? Here it is. City input with being 80%. I think we can come here, we copy, we remove this, and then we adjust it in the media queries. So remember, this is for city input. I'll come here. This needs to be a little bit smaller. I only need to have what I want to change. The rest, if I don't want it to change, it can remain in the main thing at the top there. Let me see first of all if this 70 is okay for smaller devices. Let me refresh. Okay, still 70 is still too big. But maybe also we need to increase, for smaller devices, we need to increase the part where people are putting in the input. It's not looking so visible, especially since people are just using their hands. You want it to be able to give them a good experience. So for now, we can, let me first change that. That is under city inputs. I think we can increase the whole form or the whole container for this, but that's what we are decreasing. So do we have any styling for the city input form? Let me confirm. You see there is no styling and it's the smallest. See, it's very small. If I click, if I go back here and I click city form, that's very small. So that is what we will change. I'll come here and I say dot city input, then go to form. I need you to change that width to, so we can put it 70%, so that it's 70% of this 70%. Did I refresh? It has not picked up that style yet. Mostly it's the width. It picks up that width. Okay. If I change them rather than putting form, it's still not picking up. I think it's, I don't know why it's not updating. Let me close this. I open a new one so that it updates. You see if that new one will come with updated code. No, not this one. Send desktop. I just want to change the width. I see if it will pick up the new width then, so that I know if the problem is me. See, it's still showing 70 and I've changed it to 50. Sometimes you can play around with some code here just to see how everything will look like if you do whatever you want to do. However, it does not last that long. Once I refresh, it will go, it will disappear. I realized it needs a height. Not even picking. It's not even reflecting the changes immediately. It's taking so long. Okay, so but that's how we can edit the height and all that. So yeah, so I think I'll just write a city input here to be 50, here to be 70. Even 70 is a lot. Can do 60. No, let us do 70. Can leave it with yeah, let me make from 90, let me put it to 80, or let me do 70. So it's we leave it with a gap of 20% on each. Eighty, 60. Yeah. 70, 50. Here it can be 30 for the large screen, for the extra large screens. So hopefully it will implement those changes. Yeah. So yeah, this width is still so big. To try one last time to see if it will pick up the change. Ooh, it has picked it up. Okay, I think we can just leave this city input on its own. Okay, let me remove this undefined field altogether because it is just not picking up the data, so that we no longer need to have it. We just have it. Okay, even with the error for the JavaScript, let me remove it. If it's not showing, there's nothing we can do about it. Yep, so that we just get all that like that, the timing and all the date and so forth. So yeah, I think that's it. At least now if your users view your website even on different devices, it has some responsiveness, that it's everything is not where it's not supposed to be, which is very, very important. So yeah, so that was the project. I hope you've had fun building it. Tomorrow is on Friday, so we'll do one last project just to do that, or we'll see how we will deploy our project so we can be able to share link. I think that's what we can do. We can deploy the projects we have done so that now we can be able to share links and go about to the next week. So the other week we will be doing mobile design and web design. So we'll start with mobile for week 1, then we'll move on to web design. So I'm really looking forward to learning how to design mobile apps with you. So take care. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.